Sarah Chen stifled a yawn as she sat in the vast chamber of harmonious discussion, trying her best to maintain the dignified posture expected of a Galactic Council representative. The crystalline walls sparkled with star maps and real-time data streams from across the galaxy, but even their ethereal beauty couldn't make Ambassador Zilix's presentation on proper space lane maintenance protocols any more engaging. The Artaxian diplomats' four arms moved in perfect synchronization as they gestured at elaborate holograms. And thus, we propose a 47-step verification process for all lane markers, ensuring optimal positioning down to the quantum level. Their chitinous faceplates shifted in what Sarah had learned was an expression of supreme satisfaction. In the 8 months since humanity had joined the Galactic Council, Sarah had discovered that most advanced species shared a common trait. They'd evolved past the need for sleep. Unfortunately, humans hadn't received that particular memo during their development. She discreetly tapped her neural translator's stimulant function, releasing a carefully measured dose of synthetic caffeine. Point 37 raises an important consideration. Ambassador Zilix continued, their melodious voice carrying through the chamber. The psychological impact of slightly misaligned route markers on particularly sensitive species. A flash of crimson light cut through the presentation, bathing the chamber in an emergency glow. The star maps vanish, replaced by a massive hologram of Proxima Station, the galaxy's busiest trading hub and proud achievement of 6 different species collaborative engineering. Sarah sat up straight, caffeine suddenly unnecessary. Something was very wrong with the station. Its usual graceful spiral was distorted, with visible waves of energy rippling through its quantum crystalline structure. "Emergency alert," announced the Council's AI, its voice calibrated to be both urgent and soothing. Proxima Station's experimental fusion void reactor is experiencing unprecedented fluctuations. Current models predict catastrophic failure within 12 standard hours. Potential impact radius: 3 light years. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices. Ambassador Zilix's faceplates clattered in distress. The Meridian delegation's bioluminescent patterns turned chaotic. The Quantum Harmonics Committee immediately began calculating probable failure points. "We must establish a proper response protocol," declared High Chancellor Vex of the Silicon Confluence. Their crystalline forms sparkled as they projected a decision tree with thousands of branches. "First, we shall need to form at least 7 subcommittees." Sarah found herself speaking before she could stop herself. "How many people are on the station?" The chamber fell silent. Hundreds of alien faces turned toward her. The junior representative from that curious little world that had achieved faster-than-light travel barely 50 years ago. "Approximately 23,000 beings of various species," the AI responded. Sarah nodded, already pulling out her quantum link communicator. "And the reactor? It's based on the Hendrix-Xu principles of void energy containment, right?" "Correct," answered Ambassador Zilix, faceplates now clicking rapidly in confusion. "Though modified with improvements from 7 different civilizations over 3 centuries." "Right." Sarah finished typing her message. "I just contacted my old roommate from the academy, Dave Martinez. He specialized in experimental void dynamics, and he's literally written papers on where the Hendrix-Xu model breaks down under real-world conditions. He can be there in 40 minutes if we give him emergency clearance." The chamber erupted again, this time in protests. "This is highly irregular. There are proper channels. A single human cannot possibly." High Chancellor Vex raised their crystalline arms for silence. "Representative Chen, while we appreciate your initiative, this is a delicate situation requiring careful analysis. The proper approach is to first establish a theoretical framework for." Another energy wave rippled through the station's hologram. A secondary structure began to collapse. "With all due respect," Sarah interrupted, her voice firm but polite. "In 12 hours, we can either have a solution or a very well-organized committee to investigate why 23,000 people died. Dave's already on his way. All he needs is clearance to dock." The chamber fell silent again. In that silence, Sarah could have sworn she heard the future shifting, ever so slightly, around them all. High Chancellor Vex's crystal surface rippled in what might have been a sigh. "Grant the clearance," they declared. "And may your species' reputation for impossible successes hold true." Dave Martinez's ship dropped out of hyperspace in a flash of quantum displacement, its slightly battered hull reflecting the emergency lights that now covered Proxima Station's surface. The vessel, a retrofitted maintenance cruiser named Murphy's Law, wasn't exactly what the Council's welcoming committee had expected for their potential salvation. "That can't be spaceworthy," muttered Ambassador Valax of the Centaurian Empire, their crystalline monocle adjusting itself in disbelief. The ambassador stood with Sarah and a delegation of senior engineers in the emergency docking bay, watching as the ship's unconventional landing sequence brought it to rest at a perfect angle, despite its apparent disregard for standard approach vectors. The airlock cycled, releasing a hiss of equalizing pressure. Dave Martinez stepped out, wearing cargo pants covered in tool pockets and a faded t-shirt that read "Physics." Theoretically fun. His dark hair was tousled as if he'd just woken up, which, Sarah realized, he probably had. "Sorry about the rush job," Dave said, adjusting a tool belt that seemed to contain everything from quantum analyzers to what looked suspiciously like old Earth duct tape. "Had to grab my emergency kit and book it." "What's the reactor's current containment status?" The head of the station's engineering team, a meridian named First Light of Dawn, floated forward. Their bioluminescent patterns shifted in clear agitation. "The void point is destabilizing at an exponential rate. We've tried rebalancing the quantum matrices, but the harmonics are completely unpredictable. Our most advanced AI projections give us perhaps 10 hours before catastrophic failure." Dave nodded, pulling out a handheld scanner that looked like it had been assembled from 3 different species technologies. "Right. And when did you last sync the containment fields with the station's natural resonance frequency?" The assembled engineers exchanged confused looks. Ambassador Valax's monocle whirred as it adjusted again. "Natural resonance? The station's quantum stabilizers eliminate all uncontrolled vibrations. It's a perfect system." "Yeah," Dave said, already walking toward the reactor core access. "That's probably the problem. Nothing in nature is perfect. Fighting natural variance just means the energy has to go somewhere else." He paused, turning to Sarah. "Hey, remember that time in second year when we had to stabilize Professor Singh's quantum pocket experiment?" Sarah groaned. "The one that nearly turned the lab into a singularity because the containment field was too rigid." "Exactly." Dave's eyes lit up. "Same principle, bigger scale. We need to give the system room to breathe." He turned to First Light of Dawn. "Can you get me access to the primary containment protocols? And maybe some coffee?" The Meridian's pattern swirled in what Sarah recognized as extreme concern. The containment systems are secured by 73 layers of quantum encryption. It would take at least 6 standard days to get proper clearance, even in an emergency. Dave was already pulling out his tablet, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. "No problem. Sarah, remember that bypass sequence we figured out for the Academy's cafeteria replicators? The one that technically wasn't supposed to work. The one that got us banned from programming club." Sarah smiled despite herself. "How could I forget? Quantum encryption's quantum encryption," Dave shrugged, his tablet interfacing with the station's systems in ways that made several security AIs stutter in confusion. Sometimes the best way through a wall is to convince it that it's actually a door. Ambassador Valax stepped forward, their crystalline form vibrating with indignation. "This is completely unprecedented. There are procedures, protocols." The station shuddered, and a new alarm joined the chorus of warnings. The reactor's containment field had just lost another layer of stability. "With all respect, Ambassador," Dave said, his voice suddenly serious as his tablet displayed a successful access notification. "We can either break protocol, or we can watch this station break apart. Your choice." The ambassador's crystal surface rippled with conflicting emotions before finally settling. Very well, but I must insist on documenting every violation of standard procedure for the official record. Document away, Dave grinned, already heading toward the reactor core. Just try to keep up. Sarah, grab that spare toolkit. Something tells me we're going to need the good duct tape for this one. The reactor core chamber was a cathedral of light and energy. Crystalline pillars pulsed with quantum streams in perfect geometric patterns, their surfaces etched with equations so complex they made Sarah's neural translator glitch. At the center, suspended in a web of containment fields, the void point reactor resembled a sphere of liquid darkness. "It's beautiful," Dave whispered, genuine awe in his voice as he circled the central platform, like someone built a mathematical poem. He paused, checking readings on his cobbled-together scanner. A mathematical poem that's about to turn into a very energetic tragedy. First light of dawn's bioluminescence flickered anxiously. The designs were contributed by 7 of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Each system was optimized for perfect efficiency. "That's the thing about perfection," Dave said, pulling tools from various pockets. "It's great in theory, terrible in practice. Look at these containment harmonics." He projected a holographic display that showed waves of energy flowing through the system. They're fighting every natural vibration in the station. It's like building a skyscraper that doesn't sway in the wind. Sarah watched as her friend laid out an array of devices that looked like they'd been salvaged from a dozen different tech cultures. "You're thinking about Earth's old fission reactors, aren't you? The ones that actually used water as coolant." "Exactly." Dave's eyes lit up. "Simple, robust, worked with natural properties instead of against them. These guys," he gestured at the pristine alien technology, "they're trying to achieve perfect stability by brute-forcing physics into submission. But the universe doesn't work that way. Everything needs room to dance." Ambassador Valax's crystalline monocle whirred in distress. "Are you suggesting we deliberately introduce imperfection into the system?" "Not imperfection," Dave corrected, now typing rapidly on his tablet. "Adaptability. Sarah, remember that paper we read about quantum harmonics in coral reefs? The one about how natural systems maintain stability through controlled chaos." Sarah moved to help him calibrate what looked like a modified resonance scanner. "But Dave, that was theoretical. Nobody's ever applied it to void point technology." "Nobody's ever had to," Dave grinned. "Until now." He turned to first light of dawn. "I need access to the primary containment field generators. We're going to redesign them to work like coral polyps." The Meridian engineer's pattern swirled in confusion. "Like Earth sea creatures." "Think about it," Dave said, already moving toward the first generator. "Coral reefs are some of the most stable ecosystems on Earth. Not because they're rigid, but because they're constantly adapting. Each polyp responds to changes in its environment, creating a dynamic stability that's stronger than any fixed structure." Sarah watched understanding dawn in the alien engineer's luminescent patterns. "You want to make the containment fields responsive rather than restrictive." "Bingo." Dave began modifying the generator's quantum circuits. "Instead of fighting the station's natural resonance, we'll use it. The fields will flex and flow with the vibrations, like seaweed in a current." Ambassador Valax floated closer, their crystalline form reflecting the swirling energies around them. "The Council's simulations show this approach has a mere 12.3% chance of success." "Good thing humans don't run on simulations," Dave replied, his hand steady as he rewired impossibly complex circuits. "Sometimes you have to trust that the universe knows what it's doing better than we do." The void point reactor pulsed ominously, its darkness seeming to deepen. Warning signals flashed across multiple displays, their alien symbols all conveying the same message: time was running out. Sarah watched as Dave continued working, his movements sure despite the increasing vibrations shaking the station. She realized that this moment perfectly encapsulated humanity's place in the galaxy, not as the most advanced species, but perhaps as the one best suited to embrace the beautiful uncertainty of existence itself. "Hey, Sarah," Dave called out, holding up what looked suspiciously like a quantum-enhanced version of Earth's legendary duct tape. "Want to help me teach this reactor how to dance?" 3 weeks after the Proxima Station incident, Sarah found herself summoned to the Council's primary chamber of resolutions. The normally austere room had been transformed into what could only be described as an intergalactic help desk. Holographic displays showed at least a dozen ongoing situations across the galaxy, each marked with varying levels of urgency. High Chancellor Vex's crystalline form sparkled with an emotion Sarah couldn't quite identify. "Representative Chen, your species has created quite a stir in the galactic community. The success at Proxima Station has led to some unusual requests." "Unusual how?" Sarah asked, though she had a feeling she knew what was coming. The various news feeds had been buzzing with stories about the human approach to crisis management. A hologram materialized, showing a distant space station orbiting a binary star system. "The Crystalline Collective and the Silicon Concordat are approaching their 10th century of trade negotiations," Vex explained. "They've reached what they call an impasse." Sarah studied the image. "And they're requesting human assistance." Specifically, Vex's surface rippled with what might have been amusement. They asked for, and I quote, "one of those humans who makes things work differently." Sarah couldn't help but smile. "I think I know just the person." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, cultural anthropologist. She specializes in non-carbon-based civilizations. 20 hours later, Elena stood in the station's grand negotiation chamber, ignoring the meticulously arranged seating chart that had taken 3 years to design. Instead, she was setting up what appeared to be a simple Earth kitchen. "Honorable representatives," she addressed both crystalline and silicon delegations. "Before we continue the trade discussions, I'd like to introduce you to an Earth concept: breaking bread together. We do not consume organic matter," the crystalline ambassador pointed out. "Neither do we require sustenance in this manner," added the silicon representative. Elena smiled, pulling out what looked like a chemistry set. "Of course not. That's why we're going to create something new together. You see, on Earth, sharing a meal isn't about the food. It's about the act of creating and sharing something together." Using specialized equipment, she guided the delegates through the process of growing their own crystal structures, combining elements from both their cultures to create something entirely new. What emerged were beautiful formations that could serve as data storage for the silicon beings and energy conductors for the crystalline ones. The delegates were fascinated. "This is highly irregular," one commented, holding a crystal that sparkled with stored data. "There's no protocol for this type of interaction." "Sometimes," Elena replied, "the best protocols are the ones we create together." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, a human teenager named Tommy Chen, no relation to Sarah, had accidentally solved another crisis. While visiting his mother at a first contact site, he'd shown his collection of cat videos to a newly discovered sentient species that communicated primarily through interpretive movement. The videos of Earth's most chaotic pets had provided a breakthrough in understanding non-linear thinking patterns. The Council's Crisis Resolution Department was working overtime trying to categorize and understand these successes. Their latest report included phrases like ordered chaos theory and intuitive problem-solving matrices, but they couldn't quite capture the essence of what was happening. Sarah reviewed the growing list of human interventions on her tablet. A marine biologist who resolved a deep space navigation issue by applying principles from whale migration patterns. A jazz musician who helped calibrate a malfunctioning quantum communication array by introducing controlled improvisation to its protocols. A chef who prevented a diplomatic incident by teaching 2 warring species how to make fusion cuisine. "I think I'd finally understand," High Chancellor Vex said, their crystalline form refracting the starlight in contemplative patterns. "Your species doesn't solve problems by finding the perfect solution. You solve them by embracing the inherent imperfection of existence itself." Sarah watched another request for human assistance appear on the holographic display. "We just call it working with what we've got," she replied, already reaching for her communicator. Somewhere out there, another human was about to turn a problem into an opportunity. The Galactic Council's Department of Sino-Anthropological Studies occupied an entire floating archipelago of interconnected research platforms. Dr. Carell, the department's lead researcher, had spent the last 3 months studying what they now called the human phenomenon. Their research chamber's walls were covered with holographic displays showing Earth's history, human brain scans, and thousands of case studies from recent human interventions across the galaxy. "You see," Dr. Carell explained to the assembled council members, their 4-lobed brain pulsing with different colors as they spoke. "Most advanced species evolved in environments that rewarded specialization and perfection. The Artheans developed in crystal caves where the slightest impurity meant death. The Meridians evolved in perfectly stable energy fields." They gestured to a hologram of Earth, its surface a swirling mass of changing weather patterns and shifting continents. But humans? They evolved here, on a planet that tried to kill them in a new way every Tuesday. Sarah sat in the audience, trying not to smile at the researchers' obvious excitement. Beside her, Dave was actually taking notes, his tablet filling with ideas for future engineering projects. "Watch this simulation," Dr. Carell continued, bringing up a new display. It showed 2 problem-solving approaches, one moving in a perfect, straight line toward a solution, the other seeming to bounce around chaotically before reaching its goal. The first approach is how most advanced species think: direct, efficient, perfect. The second is the human approach, what we're calling adaptive creativity syndrome. Ambassador Villax raised a crystalline appendage. But the human approach takes longer and uses more energy. How is this superior? Dr. Carell's brain lobes lit up with excitement. Now watch what happens when we introduce a variable the problem solvers didn't expect. The simulation ran again, but this time a barrier appeared in the path of both approaches. The perfect, straight-line solution crashed to a halt. The human approach simply bounced in a new direction and still reached its goal. "Humans don't just solve problems," Dr. Carell explained. "They build relationships with them. Every failure becomes a lesson, every setback a new tool in their arsenal." They'd brought up footage from recent human interventions. "Look at this human chef who solved the crystalline being's trade dispute. She didn't just create a new type of crystal. She taught both species how to experiment on their own. The solution wasn't just the crystal. It was the act of learning to play with possibilities." Sarah watched as more examples appeared. The teenagers' cat videos teaching aliens about chaos theory. The jazz musicians' improvised quantum harmonics. The marine biologists' whale-inspired navigation systems. Each solution had created ripple effects, inspiring new innovations among the species they'd helped. "But here's what's truly fascinating," Dr. Carell said, their voice dropping to an excited whisper. "We've discovered that human brains actually form new neural pathways more readily when faced with failure than success. Every time they get something wrong, they become better equipped to get something else right." Dave leaned over to Sarah. "Is this why Professor Singh never minded when we broke things in the lab?" "As long as we broke them in interesting ways," Sarah whispered back, remembering their old quantum mechanics professor's gleeful expression whenever an experiment went spectacularly wrong. Dr. Carell brought up one final display, a comparison of problem-solving approaches across 1,000 species. Most advanced civilizations evolved to find perfect solutions over time. Humans evolved to find good enough solutions quickly, then improve them through iteration. They don't just think outside the box. They redesign the box, turn it into a boat, use the leftover materials to build a shelter, and write a manual about alternative box uses for future generations. The council chamber filled with murmurs as the implications stank in. Humanity's apparent chaos wasn't a bug. It was a feature. Their species hadn't just survived Earth's endless challenges. They'd been forged by them, emerging as universal problem solvers in a galaxy full of specialists. In conclusion, Dr. Carell said, their brain lobes glowing with all the colors of a sunset. Humans don't succeed despite their chaotic nature. They succeed because of it. They are the children of an unpredictable world, and they carry that adaptability in their very DNA. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council began with a silence so profound it seemed to swallow the stars themselves. The central hologram showed a swirling mass of distorted spacetime, its edges crackling with quantum instabilities that shouldn't have been visible to the naked eye. The anomaly had appeared near the galactic core, defying every known law of physics. "The calculations are clear," announced first speaker of the Quantum Harmonics Committee, their multidimensional form flickering with distress. "The anomaly is growing exponentially. At current rates, it will consume the galactic core in approximately 30 standard days." Sarah watched as the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy presented their solutions, each more elaborate than the last. The Silicon Confluence proposed a network of quantum stabilizers that would take 15 years to construct. The Meridian Collective suggested redirecting the energy through subspace, though their calculations would require at least 3 centuries to verify. In the back of the chamber, Dr. Maya Patel, a human physicist who specialized in quantum field dynamics, raised her hand. She had been invited to observe the proceedings after her recent work on stabilizing a minor temporal eddy in the Carina sector. The Council's AI noted her request to speak, though 17 other delegates were ahead in the queue. The hologram pulsed, and another section of spacetime twisted itself into an impossible shape. Emergency alerts flashed across every display as the anomaly's growth rate suddenly accelerated. "The human delegate may speak," High Chancellor Vex announced. Breaking protocol. After recent events, the Council had learned to listen when humans had that particular look in their eyes, the one that suggested they were about to do something either brilliant or impossible, or possibly both. Maya stood, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling chaos in the hologram. "You're all trying to close the anomaly perfectly," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "But what if we don't need to close it at all? What if we just need to give it a path to close itself?" The chamber erupted in a cacophony of confused responses. Ambassador Valax's monocle whirred as it attempted to process this seemingly illogical statement. "Explain," commanded High Chancellor Vex, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that suggested intense interest. Maya walked to the central platform, her movements unhurried despite the crisis. "Look at the energy patterns," she said, manipulating the hologram with practiced ease. "They're not random. The anomaly is trying to resolve itself, but it can't find a stable configuration that satisfies all the quantum states simultaneously." She highlighted several swirling patterns in the chaos. "It's like a river hitting a dam. You can try to contain it with perfect barriers, or—" She smiled, and Sarah recognized the expression. It was the same look Dave had worn before fixing Proxima Station's reactor. "Or you can give it somewhere to flow. You propose to guide an anomaly that our most advanced systems cannot even fully analyze." The first speaker's multidimensional form rippled with disbelief. "I propose we stop trying to solve this with pure math," Maya replied, already pulling out her tablet. "The universe doesn't run on equations. It runs on patterns, weather systems, fluid dynamics, the way light bends around a black hole. We don't need to understand every quantum state. We just need to understand the shape of the flow." The Council's AI projected a probability of success so low it was effectively zero. But Sarah noticed something interesting. Several of the alien delegates who had worked with humans before were leaning forward, their various sensory organs focused intently on Maya's explanation. "Give me 3 days," Maya said, her voice filled with the peculiarly human mixture of confidence and complete disregard for astronomical odds. "I'll need a team of quantum engineers, access to the Council's sensor network, and—" She paused, a small smile playing at her lips, "and someone who's good at reading river patterns." High Chancellor Vex's surface rippled with what might have been amusement. You wish to fight a space-time anomaly with river navigation. No, Maya corrected. I want to stop fighting it altogether. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to let it solve itself. We just need to show it how. Maya's team assembled in what had once been a pristine quantum observatory and was now beginning to resemble a cross between a university physics lab and an artist's studio. Holographic displays showed both complex mathematical models and, somewhat unusually, time-lapse footage of Earth's natural phenomena. Captain Marina Chen, again, no relation to Sarah, stood before a massive projection of river delta formations, her weathered hands tracing the patterns of water flow. As one of Earth's most experienced river pilots, she'd navigated everything from the Amazon to the changing channels of Mars' terraformed waterways. See these tributaries. Marina pointed to where multiple streams divided and reconnected. Water always finds the path of least resistance, but it's never just one path. It's about distribution, about spreading the load. Maya nodded, her fingers dancing across quantum calculations. Just like energy in a complex system, the anomaly isn't fighting us. It's looking for equilibrium. She turned to the third member of their core team. Dr. James Running Bear, a climate systems specialist, was studying patterns of atmospheric circulation. It's like a hurricane, he mused. You can't stop it, but you can guide it. The eye of the storm is always seeking balance. The chamber's displays flickered as another pulse from the anomaly rippled through space-time. They had less than 2 days left before the critical point. Traditional containment fields aren't working because they're trying to force a single solution, Maya explained to the council observers. We need something more adaptable. She pulled up a new simulation. What if we treated space-time like a fluid? Marina stepped forward, her eyes tracking the energy flows. These eddies here, they're just like the backwaters in the Amazon during flood season. They're not problems. They're pressure release valves. The team worked through the night, combining Marina's understanding of flow patterns, James's knowledge of complex weather systems, and Maya's quantum physics expertise. They designed a network of quantum resonators that would be positioned around the anomaly, not in the perfect geometric patterns the council preferred, but in formations that mimicked river deltas and coral reefs. Each resonator will act like a tributary, Maya explained to the increasingly intrigued council members. Instead of trying to force the anomaly close, we'll give it multiple paths to naturally resolve its quantum states. Ambassador Valax's monocle whirred in confusion. But the energy has to go somewhere. Exactly, James grinned, pointing to his atmospheric models. Just like a storm system dispersing energy across a continent. We're not destroying the energy. We're redistributing it through natural patterns that the universe already understands. As the team made final adjustments, Sarah noticed something remarkable about their work style. While the council scientists would have required hundreds of years to create a perfect solution, the humans were constantly testing, adjusting, and learning from each failure. Every setback revealed new patterns, new possibilities. The deployment of the resonator network began with less than 10 hours remaining. The devices, looking deceptively simple, took up positions that seemed random to outside observers, but followed the deep patterns of nature itself. Like dropping stones in a river to change its flow, Marina commented as she helped coordinate the positioning. Every disturbance creates new patterns, new possibilities. The anomaly pulsed, its chaotic energies beginning to interact with the resonator network. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly at first but with increasing speed, the swirling chaos began to find new channels, following the paths laid out by the quantum tributaries. It's working, Maya whispered, watching as space-time began to reknit itself. The anomaly isn't fighting the natural flow anymore. It's becoming part of it. The council chamber fell silent as they watched something unprecedented unfold. The anomaly wasn't just being contained, it was resolving itself in ways their models had never predicted. The very fabric of space-time was learning a new dance, guided by patterns as old as Earth's rivers and as natural as the branching of trees. Sometimes, Sarah heard Maya tell an awestruck council member, "The universe just needs a gentle reminder of how it already knows how to heal itself." One standard month after the resolution of the space-time anomaly, the Galactic Council convened for what would become a historic session. The Chamber of Harmonious Discussion had been modified to accommodate representatives from younger spacefaring species, their presence marking a dramatic shift in galactic politics. High Chancellor Vex stood at the central podium, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that spoke of both wisdom and humility. For millennia, we believed that advancement meant moving ever closer to perfection. We sought to eliminate chaos, to impose absolute order on an inherently unpredictable universe. The Chancellor's form shifted, displaying images from recent events. Dave's unconventional repair of Proxima Station, Alina's crystalline diplomacy, Maya's team guiding the space-time anomaly into harmony with itself. But our newest members have taught us something profound. Vex continued. True wisdom lies not in eliminating chaos, but in learning to dance with it. They gestured to where Sarah sat with a group of human representatives. In particular, our human friends have demonstrated that innovation often comes not from pursuing perfection, but from embracing adaptation. Dr. Carroll, whose research had helped spark this change, activated a holographic display showing the new crisis response protocols. We've reorganized our emergency response teams to include members from both established and emerging civilizations. The humans call this approach fresh eyes on old problems. Sarah watched as images appeared of the new mixed teams in action, a human artist working with Meridian engineers to design more intuitive control systems, a young Arthean scientist collaborating with Earth botanists to develop adaptive terraforming methods, even a group of teenagers from various species running simulation scenarios that deliberately included unexpected variables. Furthermore, announced Ambassador Vilax, their monocle now modified to display multiple perspectives simultaneously, we are establishing what the humans call an Innovation Institute. Its purpose is not to perfect existing solutions, but to explore entirely new ways of approaching challenges. The ambassador brought up footage of the Institute's first project, a space station designed not with perfect symmetry, but with organic patterns that could grow and adapt like a living thing. Its architecture combined the precision of advanced alien engineering with the flowing, natural forms found on Earth. Dave, who had been hired as one of the Institute's advisors, leaned over to Sarah. "Did you ever think that breaking Professor Singh's quantum stabilizer would lead to all this?" Sarah smiled, remembering that chaotic day in the laboratory. "I think that's exactly what the professor was hoping for. She always said that broken equipment teaches more than perfect experiments." The council session continued as representatives from various species shared their experiences of working with humans. The Crystalline Collective spoke of learning to appreciate imperfect formations. The Silicon Concordat described how introducing controlled variants had improved their quantum computing systems. Even the Meridians, with their love of pure energy patterns, admitted that adding elements of chaos had led to unprecedented breakthroughs in their art. And so, High Chancellor Vex concluded, we hereby formalize what experience has already taught us. All crisis response protocols will now include this primary directive. When faced with the unknown, seek those who embrace uncertainty. When traditional methods fail, look to those who find strength in adaptation. The Chamber's artificial intelligence noted a peculiar phenomenon. As the Chancellor spoke, the various species in the chamber had unconsciously arranged themselves in a pattern that resembled one of Earth's river deltas, with ideas and energy flowing freely between different groups. In the back of the chamber, a newly installed plaque caught Sarah's eye. It bore a simple message in multiple languages. Perfect is the enemy of good, but adaptation is the friend of both. Below it, someone had added a distinctly human touch, a small doodle of a smiling face with the words, "Chaos was here." As the session concluded, Sarah received a message from the Council's recruitment division. They wanted her help designing a new training program for crisis response teams. The title made her laugh out loud. The Art of Controlled Chaos. Learning to Love Plan B. "You know," she told Dave as they left the chamber, "I think we finally found our place in the galaxy. Not as the most advanced species, but as the ones who remind everyone else that sometimes the best solutions are the ones you discover by accident." Dave grinned, already tinkering with some new invention. "Just wait until we show them Earth's greatest innovation, the concept of winging it."